Hey there, I'm Peter Fayroian, and I have the great honor of being Greenhills School's head of school. And today I have the privilege of talking with Dayne Bartscht, class of 2004, who is the founder of Eastern Market Brewing Co. So Dayne, just to start us off, how does a boy from Ann Arbor end up founding and owning and thriving in one of Michigan's great brew companies?
Yeah. Oh man, it's been a wild ride. So we opened back in 2017, and honestly, it was a ploy to get my college buddies to move to Michigan. I'd been living in England and just moved home, and was trying to convince them to do something in the city of Detroit. I was really passionate about Detroit and was kind of seeing what was going on there. And so we stumbled on this old rundown meatpacking plant, which we're in right now, and convinced four of my friends to throw everything we had to buy the building. And at the time, we weren't even sure it was going to be a brewery. We just thought it'd be a pretty good real estate investment. And amazingly, we somehow decided it would become a brewery and opened it within a year, which was unheard of in the city of Detroit.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, of course, anything in your Greenhills experience that you can look back on and say, yeah, I got a taste of that, not figuratively,
Yeah.
of entrepreneurship or being in this kind of business?
Yeah, well, of course I didn't drink any beer when I was at Greenhills, but yeah, I mean, I was very into sports at Greenhills, and I felt like building that camaraderie has been a huge part of our business. I'm very competitive, and so I feel like I saw that a lot while I was playing sports at Greenhills, and I'm still that way when I'm thinking about our business and how we can compete and thrive. It was a great experience. I think being part of the smaller class sizes too. I've always tried to keep our team as tight as possible. Because as we've grown, I've felt like I want to keep the culture that we started with, and I think I saw that a lot when I was at Greenhills.
Brewing there's so much chemistry involved.
Yeah.
There's so much, it's a science,
Yeah.
really. So tell me a little bit about where you got that bug.
Yeah. Honestly, I've never brewed a beer. That's one of the first questions I always get, but I've always found that I should allow the professionals to do it. So when we started this business, I wasn't super into craft beer, but I love the idea of entrepreneurship. And so we ended up bringing in a brewer who made a lot of our beer, and since then we've hired brewers as well. And so I've learned a lot about craft beer. I've tasted through a lot of beers, particularly on the consumer side of what consumer preferences would be. But yeah, we've had a lot of professionals that make it. I always kind of focused more on the engineering side when I was at Greenhills, and I did industrial engineering and economics when I went to Northwestern. So a lot of kind of the business process improvement part has been an area of my focus.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then at what point did you, whether it was in college or after, did you think this entrepreneurship thing is what I wanted to do?
Yeah. I was just thinking about that earlier today. I think when you're in high school, you're so focused on where you want to go to school and what you want your major to be. And I was always very into the idea of industrial engineering, which I think has an entrepreneurial component to it, but I never really understood why. And then went to undergrad, and I was very focused on my next job and what that would look like. But then as I worked those corporate jobs, I realized I wasn't always fulfilled by them. So I ended up going to business school abroad, and that's where I met a lot of really smart people that were entrepreneurs and kind of got the bug, and it made me want to move back to Michigan and start a business.
Right. So certainly, when you said you like sports, and so that competitive side certainly has to be a part of entrepreneurship. But what about the risk-taking side? I mean, it's no small thing, right? Say it's much safer to just get a job in a corporation. And where did that come from? And maybe for our students at Greenhills, a piece of advice about how to take that leap.
I think so. I often have to do speaking engagements, and I used to get really nervous doing them before, and I've found that confidence, and I've realized that throughout both high school and college, there's so many different opportunities where you're speaking in front of the class or you're giving a presentation. And if I could change one thing, I probably would have I would have taken more chances at those opportunities, because even when you're in high school or middle school, you're nervous about what your classmates think, but you also know them really well, and they're a great sounding board for you. And so as I had more opportunities, I kept testing speaking, and it's something that I enjoy doing now, but I wish I'd taken more chances around that for sure. I think also a great thing about Greenhills is because of the smaller class sizes and being able to play a lot of different sports, I was able to try things that I wasn't necessarily good at. Like I remember I played baseball my senior year, and I'd played baseball as a kid, but never had really focused on it. And I enjoyed it, and I wouldn't have had that chance at other schools that were much larger. And that was something that I always think back on, that I had that opportunity to do something that maybe I didn't have experience in, and I had a lot of fun doing.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
You know, we at Greenhills, we are at a size right now that we want to stay at. We you know, purposefully 100 kids in a grade, what that means for a community, and there's sort of socio-anthropologically, there's so much written and said about 100 people in a community. What about size for you? And you know, I'm sure that you get asked all the time about franchising and getting out of Detroit or Michigan. And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we've struggled with that a lot. When we first started, we had 15 employees, and then right before the pandemic, we tripled to 45 employees when we acquired another brewery. And then we actually found a lot of success during the pandemic to the point where we got to about 90 employees at kind of the tail end of the pandemic. And that whole time we were struggling with, were we growing too fast, were we growing too slow? But whenever we put our foot on the brakes, we found that people were getting a little uneasy, and that's where that value staying scrappy became important. Is I think we'll continue to grow, but we do want to be very intentional with how we grow. We don't want to feel like a chain. We have 3 physical locations now, and soon we'll have a 4th. So how do we do that? And part of it is each location has its own kind of ethos. So here in Eastern Market, this is an old meat packing plant, and we very much wanted to keep it feeling the way that it did for the past 70, 80 years. Our location in Ferndale is very similar to that community. It's very vibrant. We have colors everywhere. We do a lot of experimental beers. And so it's been interesting thinking about the Charlotte location that was formerly Founders in Midtown. And we're actually going to kind of revamp it to bring back some of its history around Midtown. And it's right next to Little Caesars Arena, so there's all this traffic around games. So we're spending a lot of time trying to think about how it could be different from the other locations. And so I think it's similar where we'll continue to grow, but we want to keep these small pockets, and we want employees to feel connected and find ways to do that. So not just growing for growth's sake.
It's great. Well, it certainly feels reflective of this awesome city that I grew up in and that you grew up around, and you know, really we're so fortunate to have you doing this in our town, and you know, Ann Arbor, which is a half hour away, but I think in many ways is always, for many people, felt like it's in another country almost, Detroit, but people like you are bringing Ann Arbor and Detroit together. So thank you for that. And thanks for talking with us. And again, Dayne Bartscht, class of 2004, Greenhills School, founder of Eastern Market Brewing Company. Thanks for the conversation, and thanks for being an alum of which we are very proud. So let's have a beer.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers. That is not Stroh's. That's awesome.